Your mic is not on. I don't.
Okay, we'll try that again. Hopefully we won't make lots of horrible noises. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very appreciative that you're all here, giving up a beautiful 82-degree weather afternoon. So hopefully we can give you some time to go outside and enjoy the weather. The universities of Wisconsin are committed to freedom of speech and freedom of expression. It is our expectation that the audience will allow our proceedings to occur without disruption. Any disruptions to the event will be handled swiftly with responsible individuals subject to disciplinary action and/or citations for the disruption. UW-Madison students involved will be referred to the Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards. And with that, Megan, would you please call the roll? Yes.
Regent Adams.
Present.
Regent Adongo. Regent Bogost. Here. Regent Fritz.
Here.
Regent Goydam. Here. Regent Cruiser.
Present.
Regent Menominee.
Here.
Regent Nixon.
Here.
Regent Palzowitz.
Here.
Regent Prince.
Here.
Regent Rye.
Here.
Regent Rogers.
Here.
Regent Salzwedel.
Here.
Regent Terwilliger.
Here.
Regent Trainer. Regent Underley. Regent Walsh. Regent Weatherly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Megan. As we consider items on today's agenda, are there board members who wish to clear any conflicts of interest regarding today's open session agenda? Yes, Regent Rye.
I think it's under the Capital Planning and Budget Committee, item I. I'll have to recuse myself to avoid any appearance of conflict.
Thank you, Regent Rye. Please recuse yourself from discussing or voting on that item. And Megan, please record Regent Rye's declaration of conflict and recusal in the minutes. The record of the August 5th, 2025 meeting of the UW System Board of Regents has been provided. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. Now I believe President Rothman has some updates and introductions.
I do, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd first like to acknowledge that several of our universities are starting the school year with new leadership. We introduced and heard from two of those leaders at earlier meetings, Mike Carney, the interim chancellor at UW Eau Claire, and Manohar Singh, the new chancellor at UW Oshkosh. Both started their roles on July 1st, and we once again welcome them into the fold. Today, it's my privilege to welcome two other leaders at other UWs. First, I'm pleased to introduce Pratima Gandhi, who as of mid-July began serving as interim chancellor at UW Stevens Point after Chancellor Gibson stepped down to go to UW Milwaukee. Pratima's career spans more than 25 years in higher education administration and financial management. As UWSP's vice chancellor, she oversaw the university's operating budget, ensuring transparency and promoting a culture of accountability. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Indiana University and has cultivated her expertise in budget planning and resource allocation and policy development. And certainly working closely with Pratima, I know she has extraordinary skills in that regard. Chancellor Gandhi, we would look forward to working with you in your new role now as interim chancellor, and would invite you to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, President Rothman. Thank you, Regent, President Bogost, and Regents. I really appreciate this opportunity to lead UW Stevens Point during the interim while a search is conducted for the next chancellor. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to Chancellor Gibson for his exceptional leadership during his tenure as UWSP's chancellor. He laid a really robust foundation for our institution's growth, which we will continue to build upon. And this academic year is off to a successful start with a record freshman enrollment, and campus is full of activity buzzing around. So with that, I would just like to say it is my honor and privilege to serve as interim chancellor of the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And once again, thank you all very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. Our second new leader is, of course, Chancellor Tom Gibson at UW-Milwaukee. Unfortunately, Tom had a very important commitment today, so we will officially welcome him into his new role at a future meeting. In fact, Tom is actually back in Milwaukee meeting with Brad Smith, the vice chair and president of Microsoft. As you may have heard, Microsoft announced earlier today an additional multi-billion-dollar investment in Wisconsin. And Microsoft has very generously founded the Co-Innovation Lab at UWM. So Tom is where he should be today. But we will look forward to welcoming him officially at a future meeting. We have several other introductions today. First, and it is my honor in the absence of Chancellor Mnuchin to welcome John Zembrennan, who is serving as interim provost and vice chancellor for academic affairs at our flagship UW-Madison. JZ, as he is known, accepted this new role in June, succeeding Charles Isbell. During his time at UW-Madison, JZ has held a variety of academic and administrative leadership positions. Most recently, he served as vice president or vice provost for academic affairs and vice provost for teaching and learning, in which he oversaw and helped found the Division for Teaching and Learning. JZ is a professor of political science. He studies the history of political thought, democratic theory, and American political thought, with a particular interest in the challenges and possibilities of democratic citizenship. Provost Zembrennan, if you could please stand so that we can recognize and thank you for your service to Madison. And for our final introduction today, I will turn things over to UW-Eau Claire Interim Chancellor Mike Carney. Mike?
Thank you very much, President Rothman. It's my pleasure to introduce a new member to my wonderful team. With Chancellor Schmidt's departure at the end of June and me stepping out of my interim provost role and into the interim chancellor role, that left a vacancy in the interim provost role. And I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Mary Hoffman, who's sitting behind me, has graciously accepted that task of stepping in as the interim provost at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Mary has been a wonderful colleague over the years. She has been working in the provost's office for, I won't say how long, Mary, because I'm not exactly sure how long, but it's been a long time. And she's had various roles in the office, most recently as associate vice chancellor. I think over her career, she has overseen essentially every unit within academic affairs, and she is the perfect person to step in as interim provost. I look forward to working with her over the next year as Eau Claire transitions to a new chancellor. Thank you.
With that, it's back to you, President Bogos.
Thank you very much. And now at this time, we would like to recognize the contributions of our friend and former colleague, Regent Emeritus Cris Peterson. To lead us in reading a resolution of appreciation, I'm going to call on Regent Rye.
How's that? Can you hear me now? Nope. There we go. That good? All right. Cris, of course, we had to have IT issues or tech issues just for you. Today, I have the honor of reading a resolution honoring Regent Emeritus Cris Peterson. before I get to that resolution, I'd like to make some personal comments about my dear friend. I've had the honor of serving with Cris since I became a regent. And for my first meeting, I was so impressed by her approach. She's by far the most prepared regent I have ever worked with. Like, she reads every dang page of every committee book and she takes notes. When serving on a committee with Cris, you always know it's going to be a zinger of a question when it starts with, "I'm just a dairy farmer, so can you explain?" Those words usually led into one of the most thoughtful and challenging questions a presenter will get that day. Cris set the bar for me when it came to being prepared for a meeting, and she set the bar for engagement. Usually, having the longest drive to a meeting, I can't remember a meeting where Cris wasn't there. Actually, Stephen, it'd be great to pull up the statistics on her mileage one day. She poured her heart and soul into this role. Cris always made sure, no matter the audience, that the value of a higher education was always exemplified. To me, no matter your political affiliation, Cris is the standard every regent should be held to. Why, might you ask? Because she really cares. She cares about every student, every campus, every faculty, and staff member. If you're a new regent or someone watching this aspiring to be one, go back and watch the videos of Regent Peterson in meetings. To me, she's always going to be a gold standard. Now I'll talk a little bit about the personal side of Cris and I. She's my dinner buddy, my Uber buddy. Turns out neither of us like driving in Madison at night. I've shared more meals with Cris in the past 3+ years than any other regent, which is really crazy when you think about it. If you were to show me the roster of regents when I was appointed, this city kid who grew up just outside of Detroit probably wouldn't pick the dairy farmer, author of children's books from Grantsburg, Wisconsin, to be his best buddy on the board. But that's what it turned out to be. And Cris, we miss you. So now time for the formal stuff. Whereas Cris Peterson has served the citizens of Wisconsin with distinguished leadership during her 7 years as a regent of the Universities of Wisconsin from 2018 through 2025. And whereas Cris served on the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee for 4 years, including 3 years as vice chair, highlighting groundbreaking and outstanding work throughout the Universities of Wisconsin, which embody the Wisconsin idea and improve the livelihood of the people of Wisconsin and beyond. And whereas Cris served on many of the board's standing committees, including 6 years on the Business and Finance Committee, 3 years on the Capital Planning and Budget Committee, 1 year on the Education Committee, and 1 year on the Executive Committee. And whereas Cris was enthusiastic in her support of the incredible faculty, staff, and campus communities throughout the UWs, serving 1 year on the Academic Staff Excellence Awards Committees, 2 years on the Diversity Awards Committee, and chairing the Teaching Excellence Awards Committee for 4 years. And whereas Cris supported robust and thorough accountability mechanisms throughout her term, serving on the Committee for Student Discipline and other student appeals, including 1.5 years as chair, and as a member of the Special Regent Committee on Governance Issues. And whereas Cris helped to ensure strong leadership throughout the Universities of Wisconsin, serving on Special Regent Committees for the UW Stout Chancellor Search, UW Stevens Point Chancellor Search, and Universities of Wisconsin Presidential Search, and chairing the committee for the UW Platteville Chancellor Search. And whereas Chris's leadership at Four Cubs Farm in Grantsburg earned her the prestigious title of National Dairy Woman of the Year in 2004, which alongside her service on Wisconsin's Dairy 2020 Council, the Wisconsin Dairy Business Association Board, and the International Dairy Foods Association Advisory Board, and her authorship of agricultural-minded children's books, has further accentuated Wisconsin's reputation as America's dairyland. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System hereby offers heartfelt thanks and commendation to Cris Peterson for her dedicated service to the state of Wisconsin and wishes her well in her future endeavors. Cris?
Wow. Now does it work? I like to have a loud voice. I was a tour guide when I was in college. at the Minnesota State, this isn't on my speech, I just had to say it. At the Wisconsin, or Minnesota State Capitol, I lived in Minneapolis, and if I was giving a tour in the Supreme Court, they could hear it in the Senate, and it's a block away. So I just want to make sure you could hear me. Thank you so much, everyone. This is just a treat to be here for the last time. On October 25th, 2017, I received a call from our Assemblyman, Adam Jarko. Cris, would you ever be interested in serving on the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system? What? I said, I've always wanted to be on a Board of Regents. Really weird. And it's my birthday. 1 week later, our milking center on our farm burned to the ground in about 45 minutes. The wind was from the southeast and blew the smoke away from our cows, and they all survived. In the next 6 hours, we had to move 815 milking mamas to 10 different farms all over Northwest Wisconsin. I sort of forgot about the Board of Regents. But in January, I drove to Madison for my Senate confirmation. I had my resume in hand, the Wisconsin idea in my head, and I lost my place. And I was a little nervous. A Republican senator whose name I'd forgotten commented that my resume was so dairy. Thus began my insecurity over my qualifications to be on this august board. I'm so dairy. And I'm from the middle of nowhere, 5 hours from Madison, and on top of that, I'm an old farmer grandma. But what an experience. At my first meeting, Regina Milner, the past Regent president, took me under her wing and made me feel like I so belonged. Everyone was like that. Regina has become a dear friend, as have so many of you. Jess Lathrop was executive director of the board when I arrived. I told her about the "so dairy" comment at my hearing, and she was horrified. Thank you for being horrified. It gave me a lot of courage. Two of my friends who are no longer on the board, but had a tremendous influence on me, are Bob Atwell and Hector Colon. I'm a good Lutheran, but these two tried to convert me to Catholicism, and we had so much fun. Dinners, email discussions, they made every meeting memorable. What dear friends and servants. I love Ed Manydeeds because he's older than me, but not by much. Talk about a glutton for punishment. He's on his second 7 years as a regent. Early on, there was an event at UW-Barron County, and I thought I'd better go since I was only an hour from home. Ed gave a talk about growing up on a reservation in South Dakota and how his experience at UW Superior transformed his life. It was one of the best talks I've ever heard, and I told him so. Karen Walsh and Ed were the first regent appointees by Governor Evers. Both ended up being regent presidents. Ed was very funny, self-deprecating, and very effective, but didn't talk very loud. And Karen, a former broadcaster, really knew how to use a microphone and ask great questions. They both navigated some serious kerfuffles during their 10 years, and Karen's regent parties at her beautiful homes were some of the best times on the board. Ashok Rai, wherever you went, dressed to the nines and always willing to share his Uber ride, is one of the most fascinating mixes of refinement, brilliance, and hunter crazy I've ever met. This dedicated, willing to dig into the business side of this behemoth of a university, while incredibly busy with his CEO job. I'm honored to know him. Thank you for all the wonderful dinners. At least you know that we're all on the same page because you're kind of saying the same thing. I first met President Amy Bogost virtually during one of our COVID-caused computer meetings. I hate virtual meetings and almost quit the board during that time. One of the only compensations for being on the Board of Regents is getting to know all you wonderful people. And that wasn't happening. When I first saw Amy online, I didn't think I liked her. She knows this. I've told her. And now we laugh because she's not at all who I thought she was. We've become good friends, and I've watched her fill her role as president with grace and equanimity. Our superintendent of public instruction, Jill Underley, has been a constant voice of concern for Wisconsin kids during the many years she has served on the board. She's humble and focused, a great addition to the team. Then there's Kyle Weatherly. Crazy Kyle. Always ready with a laugh and a biting, thoughtful comment on whatever topic is being discussed. You're not looking at me. My favorite memory of Kyle is from our board retreat last year when he went swimming in Green Lake on November 7th. The water was 50 degrees. You could see his brain cells multiplying. When Jim Cruiser attended his first meeting in Madison, I gave him a ride to a dinner at Karen's house. I'm Jim Cruiser, he said, like the police cruiser. I wonder how many times he's told that to people. He served in the assembly for 15 years and spent another 14 years as the Kenosha County executive. Wow, what political experience, so important for the Board of Regents. And Jim is a lovely man. I gave Tim Nixon a ride to a reception at Brittingham House when he first arrived in Madison for his Board of Regents meeting. When you look at his very deep law resume, you can see why that mean senator at my confirmation hearing maybe thought my resume was a bit thin. Tim's great skill is giving remarkable context to just about any topic. Joan Prince is another super achiever on the board, gracious, experienced, and eloquent. She contributes wisdom to every meeting. She is UW through and through. Desmond Adongo, a student regent who is studying at UW Oshkosh, is so engaged and always contributes unique, concise, and focused vision to our meetings. You have been a great addition to the group. When I first met Angela Adams, I was struck by her candid concern about her role on the board. She said to me she felt like she was drinking UW information from a fire hose. But she quickly got her sea legs and is serving with confidence and dedication. I never got to know Amy Traynor very well. That was very sad, but she wasn't there very long before I was done. She has an impressive background in education and is kind of from my neck of the woods. Wisconsinites have a problem with forgetting about us up north. Last September, we had our board meeting at Parkside in Kenosha. Regent Mark Tyler, who was the president of the Technical College Board at the time and had served on the Board of Regents on and off for years, suggested a few of us go to the Hobnob Supper Club in Racine for dinner. Jack Salzwedel, Haben Goydam, Mark, and I met at the crazy place that looks like it's right out of the 1950s. The evening was this classic, fun-filled, getting to know you time. I had just listened to a podcast on Eritrea, a small country just north of Ethiopia, and then discovered that Haben's parents were from there. Her family story is amazing and inspirational. Jack charmed us with all his stories and humor. It was one of the funnest evenings of the many, many funnest dinners I've had with my Regent colleagues. This group couldn't believe I was going to vote for Donald Trump. You seem so happy. Not what I thought a conservative was, or something like that, they said. I could go on and on about the chancellors, the provosts, the university system people I've gotten to know, but I'll restrain myself. I have to say a word, though, about President Jay Rothman. Brilliant and laser focused, he humbly works at this thankless, complicated job where no one is ever quite happy or satisfied. I was on the select committee that chose him as our leader, and I've apologized to him ever since. Thank you for all you do. It has been an honor to serve with you. Early last September, a bunch of our family came down to a Badger game and stopped at Brittingham House so they could see one of the special places I've been to in these past 7 years. Jay welcomed us like honored guests, although we were kind of interlopers. When he bent down and shook my 5-year-old grandson's hand, you should have seen the look on Isaac's face. We have a photo. It was a priceless moment. I'm the last appointee of Governor Walker. Who'd have thunk? I probably don't agree with many of Governor Evers' policies or politics, but I have to say, he was very good at selecting amazing people for the UW Board of Regents. You are all my friends. Despite our political differences, with mutual respect, communication, and maybe a little humor, all of us can work for the greater good. And finally, I want to thank my best friend, my husband, Gary Peterson, who during these 3 very, very tumultuous years on the farm smiled and waved goodbye as I tootled off to the far reaches of Wisconsin about 60 times. He's been a constant supporter of the university without even being there. Thank you, Gary. And thank you, everybody. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next, the United States has 37 accredited tribal colleges, and they're located in 15 states, and we are lucky to have 2 of those tribal colleges. And it is my honor right now to introduce the two representatives from the tribal colleges. Welcome some very special guests to our meeting today, Dr. Cris Caldwell, President of the College of Menominee Nation, and Karen Bright, Interim President of the Oreilles Ojibwe University. I'd also like to acknowledge Gary Klaus, Chairman of Oreilles Tribal Governing Board, who is in attendance today. Right there, front and center. Dr. Caldwell has served as president at College of Menominee Nation since 2021, after serving as interim president since February of 2020. He began his higher education journey at CMN, earning his associate degree in sustainable development. He also holds a bachelor's degree in natural resources from UW-Madison and a master's degree in environmental science and policy from UW-Green Bay. And he recently earned a PhD in environment and resources from UW-Madison's Nelson Institute. Congratulations. President Caldwell is an enrolled member of the Menominee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin. He and his wife, Toni Caldwell, a doctor of education candidate, have 2 daughters who are pursuing undergraduate degrees. Karen Bright, currently serving as the interim president of Oreilles Ojibwe University, has had a career that includes creative paths in business, justice, planning, and higher education. She rejoined the Oreilles Ojibwe University in January of 2016 as the Dean of Students and has worked in a wide range of areas at the university, including financial aid, recruitment and enrollment management, student life, business development, and chief of staff. President Bright graduated from Northland College with a Bachelor of Science degree in Sociology and Social Justice, and she earned a Master's of Arts degree in Servant Leadership from Viterbo University. She is an enrolled member of the Oreilles Band of Ojibwe, where she was born and raised. In a continuation of our ongoing conversations with Wisconsin tribal nations, each leader will provide an overview of their institution and introduce ideas on how to create even more productive collaborations between the universities of Wisconsin and Wisconsin tribal colleges. Again, and welcome. We are so honored to have you here. And now I turn it over to you.
Oso, Mauni Wiak, Mashik, Akianaquat, Machitau Nawiswan, Mashik, Cris Caldwell, Mokaman Nawiswan, Okimau, Match Kakena, Homatiwa Kamik, Kasitna, Nitski Wakian, Wasan, Natoatam away. Greetings, everyone. My name is Cris Caldwell in English. My Menominee name is Makianaquat. That means red cloud. And I serve as the president of our College of Menominee Nation, and I am Bear Clan. And let me just start by saying, President Rothman, President Bogus, thank you for this time. Thank you for your visits to our institutions. We appreciate your invitation to come and talk to the Board of Regents. In terms of our institutionally speaking, the Oreilles Ojibwe University is older than the College of Menominee Nation. So by that recognition, they are our elders, but I think President Bright thinks I'm older than her. So I guess that means I start off. But as President Bogast was reading off my my bio, it really brought back a lot of memories because I've been to this campus twice. The first time I brought my family, myself and my wife. We attended. She obtained her law degree here. I finished my bachelor's in natural resources. And our two daughters grew up in Eagle Heights, international community that I really attribute to expanding their worldview. Just in the short time we were here. But upon our return home to the Menominee Reservation, they enrolled in the schools on the reservation. We noticed very quickly the difference in educational progress. And as I reflected on that driving down here, thinking of those experiences, it also reminded me of that my first time leaving the reservation and going to a UW school was not as successful as it could have been. And there was a number of factors, but I wasn't invited back after 3 semesters by no fault of the UW. It was my own, it was on me for that. But what I did learn in coming back home, raising a family, working for our sustainable forestry program was that it wasn't that I couldn't succeed in college. I just needed the right environment to succeed. And fortunately, at that time, the College of Menominee Nation had come into existence. And so our college was chartered in 1993 by the Menominee people. And the focus was to make sure that our people were educated according to the Menominee way of learning, which is learning by doing. So connecting the classroom concepts and theory and understandings with practical applications and experiences. And that's what really set me on the path to success, where I could succeed coming here to Madison with my family, finishing my master's at UW Green Bay. And then, I don't recommend this for anybody, but being a president of a college and finishing my doctoral degree here at Madison. I think you're crazy Kyle. Crazy Cris, I think I've been referred to. But I was able to do it. And that was because of the work of the College of Menominee Nation. And I tell that story because even as I tell it today, many of my executive leaders, many of the other folks at different tribal colleges across the nation have similar stories. And we keep hearing those stories in the students that we educate today. And so tribal colleges and how they were created are meant to help to build up our people, maintaining their family and cultural connections as they pursue their academic journey. I did send and this probably is a carryover from my time as a student. Unfortunately, I sent the briefing paper that we had prepared this morning. So hopefully the Board of Regents, you have access to that briefing paper. That's the first time that we've worked on a paper to help to educate people on the TCU system in Wisconsin. As was mentioned, there are 35 tribally led, fully accredited institutions of higher education across the United States, with 2 being in Wisconsin. The formation of tribal colleges and universities is based on a community college model. That was something that really reflected the tribal connectivity that that we value in our communities. But eventually, through legislation, we were also granted land grant status through the 1994 Equity in Education Act. And so you'll often hear tribal colleges and universities referred to as 1994 institutions. But all of those things were important for forming a unique identity that we have today, both having that community college or technical trades institution type and land grant activities and functions. So when we work with, in our case, in College of Menominee Nation's case, when we work with a group like New Era, Northeast Wisconsin Educational Resource Alliance, we see UW Green Bay, UW Oshkosh, and the 4 technical colleges working together. For us, in our view, we represent both of those types of functions, but with less funding available to carry out those functions. So the work that we do is always looking to not necessarily just prioritizing one over the other, but finding ways that we can create more educational pathways for our tribal students on our reservation looking to advance, or even other tribal nations and their students who come to attend the College of Nation, or the students not from tribes, but from rural communities that surround our Kashina campus, and then by extension, our Green Bay campus. So we work to create those pathways in partnership with other higher education institutions. In addition, we work a lot with our fellow land grant, LCO, and UW Madison through a New Beginnings for Tribal Students project. And so we find ways to both interest students in future careers and looking at the academic side of what's needed for that career, and then getting them familiar with college and what that will look like, not just at tribal colleges, but once they move on, helping them be successful at mainstream institutions. So there is a lot there. The briefing paper gives you an overview of TCUs, and as I understand it, we're continuing to develop a relationship and a discussion. There are a couple of suggestions or questions I had at the end of the briefing paper, and one is for tribal colleges and universities, part of our federal legislation requires us to maintain an enrollment of 50% or more students who are enrolled in federally recognized tribal nations. So for us, that creates a bit of to me, it's a bit of a limitation in terms of, I'm not sure how familiar people are with blood quantum and what requirements there are for Native people to be enrolled in tribal nations. So as the blood quantum declines, that then reduces the amount of students that are available to enroll at tribal colleges. So there is an intertwining of tribal colleges with tribal nations issues in that respect. But the question that's posed on one end is, how do the UW strategies for working with tribal nations and recruiting students directly to campus, how might that impact tribal colleges and universities in the future? And on the other side, the second question that posed is, recruitment is, you can develop good recruitment strategies, attract tribal students here. It's always been the retention side and the persistence that many of our tribal students have struggled. And oftentimes that's the story we hear at tribal colleges, is students returning, not succeeding necessarily, maybe no degree, debt. And so we often help to get the students back up and prepared to go back out and finish their academic journey. So those two questions were posed because I think it's both sides of an issue of how do we create pathways for tribal citizens to succeed. A lot of that's based just like on my personal story, but the stories I've heard from our students today. And so just wanted to share that much as part of an introduction in bringing what my viewpoints are and perspectives and what I've seen being a product of both tribal colleges and universities and the UW system. So I'll stop there and I will just extend it over to my colleague.
Language, Cris. Ooh, it's really loud. Guess we know the microphone's working. Anin and Noe Maganidug, Maniduga, Bawikwe, and Indigenous Aqua, and Dame, that was a guy beginning and Nimin Wandam Oma. So sorry, this is a little weird the way the microphone is working. But my name is Karen Bright, as you can see and have heard several times. I am also of the Bear Clan. So Cris and I are relatives that way, even though he's Menominee and I'm Ojibwe. I just said that I just greeted you in my language, which is Ojibwe Moen, and I told you I greeted you and all of creation in my greeting, and then told you that my name is Standing Spirit Woman, and I'm from the Bear Clan, and I'm from Courte, and that I'm happy to be here today. Also extend thank you to President Rothman and President Bogost and the rest of the regents and leadership of the universities of Wisconsin for hosting our talk today. And what came across was a little different than what was in Amy's introduction about what we were to do today. And I think it's more about increasing our relations and introducing ourselves to you. I'm not sure what the familiarity of is of your group of us. We're small institutions with big and deep missions. So obviously we exist to educate our communities in all of the ways that we serve Ojibwe communities across northern Wisconsin that include the Red Cliff, Bad River, and Lac du Flambeau tribes. So we have presence in each of those communities in addition to Le Coudray, and offer our higher education products to those communities. And so by that, extending access to those who live in those communities. Our average student is a 36-year-old female who often is a mother and has a job. So that's a little bit different than I think the majority of your students who matriculate to your institutions straight out of high school. While we do have those among our population, this is the majority of the people that we serve, creating access to higher education to mainly adult learners. And that's where I'll stop talking about the institution for a little bit and tell you more about like who I am. I am a product of this institution, and beyond that, I grew up with this institution. As Cris said, our institution is older than his. He has no idea if he or I are older than the other, and I'm not going to tell. So our institution is 43 years old. I think it's safe to say we're both older than that. But as a young person, I was the daughter of a regent. And he also drove a van for the institution to give rides to people in the community for their classes. So I was there as a young person watching the birth of this institution as my father served multi-purposes. Whatever his sister, who was Teresa Williams, she also was She also was involved with the beginnings of the K-12 school at Courte, but she also was instrumental in a group of my elders who decided that it was a good idea to create a college for our community. And so I often wonder about that, like, out of the very few tribal colleges and universities across this nation, compared to the number of tribal nations that exist in this country, it's very few. What is the difference in the communities where there exists a tribal college versus the communities that do not have? And what is the impact of those institutions in the communities they serve? I can tell you the impact of the institution that I serve and growing up in the community I grew up in. I don't know I definitely know I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you from this position right now if it wasn't for this institution. I earned an associate's degree as a requirement of a job I had with the then community college, to get an associate's degree in liberal arts, which is up until this year been one of the more populated programs that we have. Because it served as a stepping stone for people to acquire the first 2 years of a 4-year degree. So they would start with us, and then we would work to help them transfer to one of your institutions or somewhere else on their journey. So that's what I ended up doing. And in that way, I'm very, very close ties with this institution. It's more than a job for me. It's a way to serve my community, to actually know the people who started this institution. I'm related to a lot of the people who either are students or work there, or, you know, they've served on the Regents, and it's very close knit. And so the impact is very real to me. And the mission is very real to me. So getting back to the mission, I will, in your briefing paper, you'll see all of the information that you would normally see. The Courte Ojibwe University's mission is to provide Anishinaabe communities with post-secondary and continuing education while advancing the language, culture, and history of the Ojibwe. It's obvious what institutions of higher education do. We educate and we train people to enter the workforce. But we also have the social side of our missions, that we endeavor to do something to create people who have a level of education and understanding to navigate this world and to be leaders in all of these different areas. And it's our future. Well, the other side of our mission is more about our past and our future. So I guess if I was to relay something to you about our institution and the work that we do, I would say that we hold space for people who are often into their adult lives that have, through no fault of their own, become separated from who they are as Ojibwe people, either like not knowing their history or their language or their culture, ways of knowing and being, holding a place for them to come back and learn and reconnect with that part of themselves. And so that to me is really important. And it's why I continue to show up and I continue to bring my best self to my work and fight really hard for what we do. That's all. I guess miigwech is indawieg miseu. So thank you for listening to me. That is all.
Thank you both so much. I want to see if my Regent colleagues have any questions or comments for the presidents. Yes, please, Regent Prince.
Thank you. Shouldn't hit on it because it might explode. Thank you so much, President Bogos. First of all, thank you very much for coming and for sharing and reminding us of the story of our tribal colleges here in Wisconsin. I would ask that we get periodic reports coming through the Education Committee, would be very helpful. And in my previous life, I actually visited both of your institutions, and I'll be at Courte on Tuesday, so let's talk offline. Thank you.
Great. Yes, Regent Menominee.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming and presenting. It's good for us to learn from you. And it keeps in line with our consultation policy that we have in place, that we've been religiously meeting with each other, each groups, learning more about you and your students and how we can help them succeed, graduate, be successful for their communities. It's very, very important. And I hope and pray that it continues on for quite a long time until we don't need it anymore. All right. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from Regents? Okay, President Caldwell, did you?
Just to, I didn't really explain the, can you hear me if I just sit like this? Or just,
If you can, yeah.
I didn't really explain the briefing paper clearly, or as clear as I intended, but one of the reasons that we were looking to share the information as well is just, I attended a Board of Regents meeting a few years ago, 2 years ago, and it was really helpful for me to learn, because this is UW, obviously, system is obviously such a big system, as the lady that was recognized mentioned. And so I'm learning, trying to learn from you. How do you guys operate administratively? How do you focus on priorities and policy? So it's been a good opportunity for me to learn. And I think that was the point of, we don't often refer to ourselves as a system. There's two of us, two institutions. And so we refer to each other as sister institutions, sister tribal colleges. And we work in that regard, that relationship. So trying to be more clear about what we do, why we do it. It is for education, but higher education as a purpose for addressing long-term policies that have impacted our tribal nations. And so that's at the core of our mission. I know the UW system has advanced in how they support tribal nation students. I always look at UW Green Bay as that model of what it should look like, because there are higher levels of faculty and staff, so that students going see themselves in the people that are teaching them, supporting them in that respect. So that's what I always look for, is how do we get to that point, as Regent Menominee's mentioned. And a part of it too is even just working with the UW system, investing in collaborations with tribal colleges can be a way of helping students prepare to be successful at the beginning, rather than going through the cycle and coming back and restarting. And I end on that point because I see the tribal colleges and universities work as cycle breakers, that intergenerational trauma and all the impacts that tribal nations have been working to deal with through education, through workforce development, while retaining our culture and our values. And so again, thank you for your time. And that's just a little more about the history of the paper and the story that it tells you all. So Matt Chwaiwanen, big thanks. And
Thank you so much. Thank you for those words. Other regions to go and visit. I've been there a couple times and I'm so appreciative. I've learned so much. And I think that we want to continue to all learn. So thank you for the journey. And we'll keep up the discussions. Thank you so much. Okay. Moving on, continue with my reports. Reports from the Wisconsin Technical College System Board has been provided. Are there any comments or questions? Sorry. Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. I have a brief update on upcoming chancellor searches that will get underway in the coming weeks and months. First, we expect to announce the members of the Search and Screen Committee soon and officially launch the search to identify the next chancellors of UW-Stevens Point in the coming weeks. A little further down the road, we will also launch a search to identify the new chancellor for UW-Eau Claire. More to come with that in the next few weeks. On a related note, on September 5th, I was very privileged to go to UW-Eau Claire and be part of the topping off ceremony for the new health science building. Regent Many Deeds and I received a very warm welcome from interim Chancellor Carney. And it was really exciting to see the progress of the new building, and we got to sign the beam, which was very cool. The UW-Eau Claire Science and Health Sciences Building will house various disciplines, including biology, chemistry, nursing, computer science, and public health, along with the Material Science Center, a Blue Gold Center for High Performance Computing, and 10,000 square feet for Mayo Clinic Health System research collaborations. The building is scheduled to be completed by 2027. It was really a great opportunity to see the excitement that was surrounding all of this on the campus. And afterwards, I got a wonderful, along with the DOA Secretary Blumenfeld, a tour of the Pablo Center, which is also part of UW-Eau Claire. And I encourage anyone that has never been to the Pablo Center, go take a look. It's really beautiful, and it's exciting that it's also part of UW-Eau Claire's campus. And that is it. So I will turn things over to President Rothman. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And again, good afternoon, everyone. Typically, this would be a point at which I would offer some follow-up on some aspects of our strategic plan, which this board adopted in December of 2022. Today, I'm going to defer that just a little bit until later this afternoon, when we will have an overall annual update. I've asked our three vice presidents, Dr. Johanna Spritz, who heads Academic and Student Affairs, Julie Gordon, our Vice President of Finance and Administration, and Chris Patton, our Vice President of University Relations, along with Associate Vice President Ben Passmore in the Policy Analysis and Research Function, and Associate Vice President Jack Chablansky, who heads our Public Affairs, Communications, and Branding Group, each to present a high-level status of updates for select tactics assigned to their respective units. So a little bit more on the strategic plan coming up. For now, I wanted to turn to some legislative updates, starting on the state side. Since the 25-27 biennial budget was signed in July, it became Act 50, Wisconsin Act 15. We have been focused on developing the credit transfer, faculty workload, and market pay policies as required by the budget. We have established work groups for each of these policies with leadership and other internal stakeholders from across our 13 universities. These policies will be presented to the board for approval before ultimately going to the Joint Committee on Employment Relations by the end of this year. Unrelated to the budget, the fall legislative session has begun with the Assembly convening on the floor last week. The Senate has indicated their chamber will not meet for a floor session until at least October. As the fall session progresses, we will continue to monitor legislation that may have an impact on higher education generally and on the universities of Wisconsin more specifically. One area we have been working with the legislature and hope to see advance this fall is the expansion of dual enrollment opportunities for high school students. Increasing dual enrollment is a priority of the universities of Wisconsin as we work to help students earn college credit while they are still in high school, further encouraging them to pursue a degree in Wisconsin. I think ultimately the goal is to be able to offer, in a perfect world, dual enrollment to every high school student who wants it across the state. Overall, I think we have continuing to have productive conversations with the legislators at the state level. Turning now to the federal front, since our last meeting, Congress has returned to Washington for what will be a busy legislative calendar through the remainder of the year. Importantly, Congress must first fund the government past the end of the federal fiscal year which is fast approaching at the end of this month, to ensure that there is not a lapse in appropriations and a government shutdown. We continue to be engaged actively with our congressional delegation and our national associations, highlighting the importance of not only funding the government, but also ensuring funding of our priorities related to our students, research, and higher education generally. As I've shared before, ensuring our students from all economic backgrounds can attend our universities remains critical to our mission, and our support for the programs that allow this to be possible will not waver. Programs like the Pell Grant and other federal financial aid are critical to ensuring continued access and success for every student who chooses to pursue higher education, regardless of their socioeconomic background. Indiscriminate cuts, whether to research, financial aid, or programs that provide student support, are ultimately short-sighted and will negatively impact the next generation of Wisconsinites. As Congress continues to advance plans between now and the end of the month, we will also remain engaged with each of our universities to share updates and ensure planning in the case of a lapse of appropriation, i.e. a government shutdown. In the background of congressional action, federal agencies to continue to put forward guidance and rules, which we will continue to evaluate and address. Two issues are of particular note, and we continue to work within our federal updates work group and with our national associations in advance of the common deadline on two proposals that are out there right now. The first follows a presidential memorandum dealing with transparency in higher education admissions. The quote, admissions and consumer transparency supplement, end quote, seeks to quote, capture information that could indicate whether institutions of higher education are using race-based preferencing in their administrative processes, end quote. The comment request for these new data collection rules is open until mid-October. Second, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced a new proposed rule relating to duration of status for international students. We will continue to review this rule and will share updates as appropriate. Let me now shift to enrollment. As you probably heard us discuss, a key goal in our strategic plan is to grow the number of graduates from our UW universities. More specifically, our strategic plan calls for a target of 41,000 graduates annually by 2028. That starts, of course, with helping students access our universities in the first place. The Direct Admit Wisconsin initiative is a relatively new player in this effort, but is already showing promise. Vice President Britz will be talking more about this later this afternoon, but it's worth noting in the first year of the program, which was last year, more than 24,000 offers of admission were sent out. Let me repeat that again. Last year, there were more than 24,000 offers of admission sent out. We were well over 30,000 in this current year. The students who accepted those offers from last year have arrived on our UW campuses this month. Looking closer at the potential impact on our numbers, our preliminary enrollment estimates based on first day student counts were recently released. I'm pleased to say that enrollment at 8 of our 13 universities increased, while overall enrollment across the universities of Wisconsin held steady. More specifically, new freshman numbers are up 3% or nearly 900 students, according to preliminary estimates, with 8 universities showing new freshman enrollment, 8 universities showing new freshman enrollment up 5% or more. With that said, and that's really good news, we have experienced significant declines in international students. We believe that is a likely reason that our overall enrollment remained steady and did not increase. Adding it up, overall enrollment is estimated at 164,340 students in this fall, a difference of 96 students from last year's enrollment count. So you can see that we were basically steady in terms of our enrollment. Official and updated enrollment counts will be released later this fall based on the 10th day enrollment, and that generally occurs in mid-October. Early indications are that Direct Admit Wisconsin and the tuition promise that we were able to offer the cohort that is starting this fall, that we will not have the funding to do in the future. Those two programs have had a favorable impact. I don't think you can look at those increase in freshman numbers and come to any other conclusion, quite frankly. And that is really good news. And given the myriad of challenges out there, we can certainly state that Wisconsinites know that education unlocks opportunities. And I'd really like to congratulate all of our universities and their enrollment officers and financial aid officers and everybody else it takes. So chancellors and provosts and everyone else, thank you very much for a job well done. Let me move on to another area that is high on our priority list, and that's artificial intelligence. Our strategic plan affirms our commitment to fostering a culture of innovation, and the rapid advancement of AI presents both an opportunity and, quite frankly, in my judgment, an imperative to embrace this transformational technology. Across the universities of Wisconsin, AI is being integrated throughout the enterprise in new academic programs and multidisciplinary curriculum, in research and scholarship, in faculty and staff development, in administrative operations, and in student support services. I'm just going to highlight just a few of the great things that are going on across the universities of Wisconsin. UW Green Bay created a bot that engages periodically for a check-in with students, and the university believes that that may be a factor in improving student retention. IT programmers at campuses like UW Stevens Point are using AI tools to reduce the time-consuming work of writing code, freeing up resources for other functions. A number of UWs are offering courses to help instructors and students explore AI tools and learn how to integrate them into their teaching and academic pursuits, respectively. And in fact, UWSA is providing 2 centralized models to provide such training to both our instructors, faculty members, and our students. Additionally, universities like UW-Whitewater have enrolled hundreds of faculty and staff in training that supports AI integration in both administrative offices and in the classroom. AI is the first field of focus for UW-Madison's RISE initiative, where interdisciplinary research and infrastructure seek to address the technical and human challenges of the technology. Importantly, not only staff at each university is working to identify opportunities and create solutions on their own campuses, but the universities are also collaborating with each other to share ideas. UWs are adopting AI to streamline operations in areas such as marketing, human resources, and student recruitment, even to assess roommate compatibility for dormitory assignments. Today, we have over dozens of concentrations and certifications in AI content, as well as additional interdisciplinary programs integrating AI into business, education, and healthcare across our universities. But we have the potential to do so much more. I believe, and I don't want to repeat myself, but this is not just an opportunity. It is an imperative for us to make progress rapidly in this space. In a world that is changing quickly, our goal cannot be merely to keep pace, but we need to have as our goal to be at the forefront of higher education as it relates to artificial intelligence. From my perspective, you look at it and say the job market is shifting rapidly, and AI is certainly accelerating that change. Entry-level roles are being redefined, and many traditional pathways are under pressure. I am confident, though, in spite of that change, university instruction will continue to evolve to meet the moment. As you've heard me say before, I'm proud of the work of our universities in this regard. We are not just preparing students for today's jobs. We are preparing them for the jobs that do not yet exist. And just to put a little light on that, according to the World Economic Forum, 170 million new jobs will be created by 2030 in this emerging space. At the same time, there'll be nearly 100 million jobs that will no longer exist. And the resiliency, the flexibility, the adaptability that our students get in their university's experience will prepare them for that world. As public universities, our focus in this environment becomes clear. We need to provide students durable skills such as critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and learning how to interact interpersonally and effectively. These are human capabilities that AI cannot replace. We must invest in interdisciplinary learning, AI literacy, and applied experiences. From internships to other high-impact practices, we can help ensure students graduate both with knowledge, but also the skills to be adaptable. We must continue to evaluate real-time labor market trends to update curricula and credentials, aligning education with emerging industry and societal needs. AI will automate certain tasks, to be sure, but it will also create other opportunities. To name just a few, think about AI ethics, digital identity management, and creative strategy are all areas that are expected to grow. Well, the landscape is evolving and the sands under our feet is moving. The value of a college degree isn't disappearing, it is simply being redefined. And at the universities of Wisconsin, we are committed to helping students not just to endure that change, but to lead it. I want to just turn now and I hit a couple of our outreach initiatives. One of the joint efforts that we have had at UWSA with our universities has been featured co-branding over the last year. And one of those examples is our Mascots on Main video series, highlighting the relationship between our UW universities and the local business community. In recent months, we've seen a good number of these videos. I want to share a couple today. The latest series features both UW Superior and UW River Falls. So with that, if you could roll the video, please.
Today we're visiting one of our business partners that we've been a business partner for a long time. I'm new, and so it's a good opportunity for me to understand the connections that are here, but we have able to meet a lot of former UW River Falls students who now work for this company, understand better what they do so we can build even stronger bridges between the two.
Eurofins Biodiagnostics focuses on agronomic quality assurance testing. So most of the things that we're doing are testing quality assurance in seeds and also animals. In our busy season, I would guess at somewhere around 40 to 50% of the people working here in my business unit are River Falls graduates or students. Having UW River Falls here to tap into for that student population is really critical for us. We really need it to make sure that we can process the samples in those 6 months where we're incredibly busy to make sure that we're serving the industry. We've found it to be really important to us to be able to leverage people that are available from the university, either recent grads or college students. Eurofins Biodiagnostics supports UW River Falls and the universities of Wisconsin.
I think we should have one more to roll, correct? There we go.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna shout out.
Not that one. We're a well-oiled machine today. It's all good.
Speaking of AI. It'll take just a minute. In meantime, President Rothman will sing a song for us or something.
Okay.
Do some sort of entertainment while we wait.
You're not gonna like that, so. I do, while they're teeing that up, I'm just gonna jump to a different section and then we'll come back. I did want to make a comment though about Chancellor Chenoweth, who, has shifted to the red shirts. I don't know if you've noticed that. He had purple shirts for, I think that's all he had. So this move to River Falls has been really interesting, but John has kept up with the fashion trend. So, let me report real quickly on the Freshwater Collaborative while they're getting the next video teed up. This is some great news that impacts all 13 of our universities because they are all in the Freshwater Collaborative. Just yesterday, it was announced that the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin has committed to investing more than $4.2 million over the next 2 years to support water education and water research programs that will bolster Wisconsin's water workforce for years to come. The 19 new projects that will be funded by this money will involve faculty, staff, and students from across our universities, as well as dozens of partners from industry, government, local communities, tribal nations, nonprofits, and those in the K-12 educational system. They will increase research and training opportunities for our students at the high school, undergraduate, and graduate level. The work is expected to address Wisconsin's biggest water challenges, including PFAS and phosphorus pollution. This collaborative shows the power of our universities when we come together to work on issues that are critical to Wisconsin's future. We are preparing future leaders while also strengthening the state's economy, protecting our natural resources, and serving communities and industries throughout the state. This funding is part of a statewide initiative backed by the Wisconsin legislature and Governor Tony Evers. This is a significant development, and I'd like to congratulate the Freshwater Collaborative on that milestone.
And now we're ready to roll.
And now we're ready to roll
Yep.
the video, hopefully? Okay.
Yes.
Halvard Mines has a strong history of hiring UW Superior alumni across a wide range of roles, including director-level positions in logistics, customer service, and human resources. Currently, Halvard employs 16 UW Superior grads, and they continue to invest in emerging talent by offering internships to our students in transportation and logistics management. UW Superior's partnership with Halvard Mines supports student success and meets the growing workforce needs of the transportation industry.
UW Superior has been a great partner with Halvard Mines for many years. We've hired in excess of 30 of our staff members from there throughout the years, and it's been a great relationship. UW Superior has been our #1 source for talent in the area, and we've been very happy with the students that have come through that program.
My time at UW Superior greatly prepared me for my career here at Halvard. I majored in transportation and logistics management. After my education, I was able to get an internship here, and then that's grown into my 7-year career here at Halvard. Halvard Mines supports the universities of Wisconsin and the University of Wisconsin-Superior.
Renee, they didn't really let you drive the truck, did they? Okay, that's great. But, Superior's got a great logistics program, and you can see the interconnection with businesses on that front. I should also note that this video was produced prior to UW Superior unveiling its new logo, which hopefully will appear on the screen now. But this is Superior's new look, and congratulations, Chancellor Wachter, on a really interesting and exciting new space for your university.
Thank you. Anything else?
Oh, I got more.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
I guess that was my cue, but I'm just
Okay,
gonna
it's not
I'm gonna
stopping.
run
Keep
through
going.
that stop sign.
Keep going.
While we're on the subject of campaigns, I would also like to call your attention to the faculty and staff shout out series that we're doing that have started popping up on your screens in the last couple of weeks. For this campaign, now in its 3rd year, our videographers visited all 13 universities, invited students to give a shout out to a faculty or staff member who made a real difference in their lives or in their university experience. We have a brief sample clip to give you a sense of what we've heard.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna shout out. I'm here to shout out.
I wanted to shout out.
Today I want to shout out.
I wanted to shout out.
I'd like to shout out.
I want to go ahead and shout out.
He never fails.
Okay, obviously, we are continuing to have some challenges, but I encourage you to watch them as they are, because they are on social media. And just to give you some sense, the videos over the last couple of years have been viewed by more than 6,000 or 600,000 times. So I mean, this really does have an impact, and I think it's a real testament to the faculty and instructional academic staff that we have at our universities, because these are the people that make a difference and change the trajectory of people's lives. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to view some of them, because they truly are inspiring. So before I conclude my report today, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on a topic I have addressed multiple times before this board, and which is directly tied to our strategic plan, namely the First Amendment and its foundational importance to our democracy and to our universities. The United States is exceptional in many ways, but perhaps most profoundly is its enduring commitment to free expression. The right to speak, to protest, to challenge authority without governmental interference. These are not just legal protections. They are the bedrock of our civic life. On our campuses, these rights are not only respected, but they are essential. Universities must be places where ideas are tested, where disagreement is welcomed, and where students learn to engage with complexity, not retreat from it. But let me be clear. Peaceful protest is protected speech, even when it's something we don't want to hear. It is a vital part of our democratic tradition, and we honor that right at the universities of Wisconsin. But we must also recognize that there are boundaries. When expression crosses a line into vandalism, disruption, intimidation, or even violence, it ceases to be protected. It undermines the very freedoms it claims to defend. Higher education must model civil discourse. We must resist the impulse to silence opposing views, to demonize those with whom we disagree, or to use disruption as a substitute for dialogue. And we must always reject political violence. We need vibrant universities filled with diverse perspectives. We need students who are challenged and who challenge others. And we need to show the world that disagreement can coexist with respect. Thank you. And with that, I will turn it back to you, President Bogost.
Thank you, President Rothman. Regents, are there any questions or comments on President Rothman's report? Okay. Moving along, I will now call upon Regent Adams to present a report from the Audit, Risk, and Compliance Committee. Regent Adams.
Thank you, President Bogost. The Audit, Risk, and Compliance Committee met this morning. The committee approved the minutes of the July 10, 2025 meeting the Office of Internal Audit Fiscal Year 2026 Audit Plan Progress Report, as well as the results of reports recently issued via consent agenda without comment. Next, the committee heard from Joseph Razor, Director of Risk Management, who discussed the progress report on the Student Safety and Emergency Preparedness Audit. He shared that the emergency standards are being updated based on the results of this audit, as well as feedback from campus stakeholders and UW-Madison Campus Police. Then Paige Smith, Chief Compliance and Risk Officer, gave a progress report on the UW System Administrative Policy 625, Youth Protection and Compliance, SYS 625 audit. The Regents appreciated the update and the progress made to date. The committee requested its next progress report in early 2026. Madam Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Adams. Next, I'll call upon Regent Prince to present the report of the Education Committee. Regent Prince.
I guess that's me. A little nervous of this mic, so I might back away from it a little bit. But thank you, Regent President Bogos. The Education Committee approved 1 degree program. So we have our eyes on this 1 degree program. We approved a UW La Crosse Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Arts in Criminology. Elevating the existing criminal justice minor, it addresses regional employer needs in areas such as criminal justice, health, and education. Senior Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs, Johannes Britz, updated the committee on the University of Wisconsin's progress as it relates to Act 15, focusing on 2 key requirements: developing a teaching workload policy and establishing transferability of core general education requirements across institutions. The work groups have engaged stakeholders. They are revising current Regent policies to comply with Act 15, and that will come before you at the next meeting or in November, one of those 2 meetings, we will see that, and establish timelines with Board of Regents approval scheduled for fall this year and full implementation set for September 2026. Next, as we approach the 50th anniversary of the Hessen, Germany-Wisconsin partnership in 2026, Provost Martini of UW Oshkosh and Professor Kunden Kisher of UW Milwaukee presented on Hessen-Wisconsin partnership incentive grants, highlighting 2 projects that showcase innovation and demonstrate the expansion of our relationship with Hessen beyond student exchange and into faculty collaboration. And as a sidebar, Madam President, I made the suggestion, I think the Board of Regents should convene October of 2026 to celebrate the 50th anniversary at Oktoberfest in Germany.
That's an excellent,
Just thought I'd
excellent
put that
idea.
out there.
I like that.
And finally, Senior Director of Student Success and Wellbeing, John Akhtar, led a team of presenters in introducing the Universities of Wisconsin's Fostering Success programs, which operate on 11 campuses and provide critical support for students with foster care experience, as well as those who are unaccompanied and homeless, orphaned, or wards of the state. The programs have demonstrated strong impact with steadily increasing participation, an 83% retention rate compared to the 77% system average. 598 students were served last year and 109 graduates since 2022. Looking ahead, opportunities include expanding fostering success to all UW campuses, strengthening student recruitment and data collection, sustaining and increasing funding, and contributing more broadly to Wisconsin's workforce and communities. And I would just say it was an excellent presentation and hopefully will be moved up to a board presentation at some time. It was excellent, helping us remember a community that's often forgotten, those that come out of foster care. Regent President, this concludes my report. Therefore, I move for adoption by the Board of Resolutions C1 and C2.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Resolution carries. Next, we will be moving on to the Business and Finance Committee, and I will now call upon Regent Rye.
Thank you, Regent President Bogost. The Business and Finance Committee acted on this agenda as follows. First, the committee approved a new UW-Madison Master Clinical Trial Agreement with Janssen Research and Development, a pharmaceutical, medical device, and healthcare company. I don't know what I'm doing with this mic. That is a longtime collaborator with the university. The agreement will provide new opportunities for research and funding that may exceed $10 million over its 5-year term. The committee then took up a series of items related to the UW Office of Trust Funds. First, we received the Q2 investment report. As of June 30th, assets in the long-term fund and income cash fund totaled a combined $664.5 million with a return of 6.25% in the long-term fund. Assets in the intermediate term fund totaled nearly $764 million after gains of 3.4% for that quarter. All funds performed in line with their benchmarks. Committee then heard a presentation from Marquette Associates, the investment consultant for the intermediate term fund. At the request of the fund's investment committee, Marquette conducted an asset allocation study, which found that the current allocation is more efficient than several other models that were tested. The investment committee concurred with the recommendation to maintain the existing allocation, and no further action is required of the Regents at this time. Next, the committee approved revisions to the trust fund's investment policy statement. The changes primarily affect provisions governing a fund managed by students in the Applied Security Analysis Program, ASAP, at the UW-Madison School of Business. The modifications allow for investments in Rule 144A bonds and update and clarify the benchmark indexes and weights. Additional technical revisions are made to align references to Regent bylaws and policies with current language. Lastly, the committee received an informational presentation on UW Shared Services, the chair's favorite subject, in both administrative and IT functions. The report provided an update on progress made in response to the recommendations and observations found in the Deloitte assessment of UW administration. Areas of focus include governance, metrics, and customer service. The presentation did note that we'd be receiving a roadmap for future shared services in our June 2026 meeting. That concludes my report, and on behalf of the Business and Finance Committee, I now move approval of resolutions D and E.3.
Thank you. Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. The next, we will hear from Regent Cruiser to present a report from the Capital Planning and Budget Committee. Regent Cruiser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Capital Planning and Budget Committee met today to consider 6 items. The committee approved the consent agenda for the 30-year ground lease on the UW Green Bay campus for the construction of the cellular tower. 10 all-agency projects, which will include replacing a stage lift program system at Green Bay, repair of deck waterproofing systems and HVAC equipment renovation at Madison, roof replacement at Platteville, electrical and telecommunication renovations at River Falls, multiple elevator replacements at Stevens Point, infrastructure improvements on Walter Way at UW Green Bay, repair of multiple surface parking lots at Madison, steam and condensate utility replacement at Oshkosh, and a track replacement at Stevens Point. In addition, the committee approved 4 minor facility renewal projects, including exterior envelope renovation at Madison, a heating and chilling plant curtain wall replacement at UW Parkside, roof replacement at the gymnasium at Stevens Point, and acoustic improvements in classrooms at Whitewater. The committee approved authority to construct Prairie Springs Science Center completion project at La Crosse for $194,500,000. This project replaces the outdated Cowley Hall and completes a 2-phase initiative delivering modern classrooms, labs, and research spaces essential for STEM and health programs that serve over 40% of the students on campus. Designed to meet sustainability standards, and support critical work needs. The faculty will position UW La Crosse as a leader in science education and research for decades to come. The committee approved authority to construct health sciences renovation project in Milwaukee for $189,300,000. This project will transform 357,000 square feet of former hospital space into a modern, unified home for health sciences program, replacing outdated, scattered facilities by expanding labs, clinical settings, and interprofessional education space. This investment strengthens workforce readiness in the critical health fields and enhances research and student learning in state-of-the-art environment. The committee also approved authority to construct the recreation complex addition renovation at Stout for $31,700,000. The project modernizes the 1963 Sports and Fitness Center by converting the unused pool into a multi-purpose gym, expanding cardio and strength areas, and upgrading the locker rooms for privacy and inclusion. With the new building systems and energy-efficient design, this investment supports students' wellness, recruitment, and retention while aligning with current codes, sustainability standards. The committee approved the Century Hall addition and renovation project at Stevens Point for $98,100,000. This project transforms the outdated Collins Classroom Center into a modern home for Century School of Business and Economics, featuring the state-of-the-art classrooms, labs, and collaborative spaces. By addressing accessibility, sustainability, and technology needs, this investment strengthens the talent development in central Wisconsin and positions UW-Stevens Point to meet the growing demand for business education. The committee approved the delivery of Wisconsin Institute for Medical Research East Wedge cyclotrons. Thank you. I'll spell it for you. And expansion through the UW Managed program, as well as the authority to increase the budget to $62 million. This adjustment funds critical infrastructure for the cyclotron and adds additional floors to the future labs and clinical space, and ensuring long-term flexibility and research growth. Entirely supported by gifts and grants, this program strengthens Madison's position as a leader in the medical research, innovation, and patent care. Lastly, patient care, rather. Lastly, the committee heard an update on the planning process for the 2027 to 2029 capital budget, laying out the groundwork for aligning campus's infrastructure with long-term academic, research, and student success goals. Key milestones include issuing budget instructions, completing campus consultations, and hosting a system-wide planning conference to guide strategic alignment and funding priorities. Next steps involve campus site visits, and consultations to further refine potential projects. Madam President, this concludes my report. I move resolutions D1, D2, D3, E, F, G, and H. And I will move resolution I separately after this motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolution I.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Regent Cruiser. We will now take a brief recess before our next item. Let's come back at 2:50. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. I was sort of tempted to reconvene at the Union Terrace, but I was told that the security would not be so great. So we're going to stay here. And I appreciate everyone returning. And we'll hear a progress report on the University of Wisconsin 5-year strategic plan. President Rothman and staff take over.
Great. Thank you very much, President Bogos. We are pleased today to provide our annual update to the board on actions taken in fulfillment of the strategic plan. As you may recall, our last update was a little less than a year ago at the December 2024 meeting. In addition to the annual update, I provide periodic updates at each board meeting during my president's report. Just as a reminder, the current plan was adopted by this board in December of 2022, and we began implementation of the strategic plan in earnest in January of 2023. As such, we are slightly past the 2.5-year mark, or in other words, halfway in the execution of our 5-year strategic plan. And I encourage you to keep in mind that this is the system-wide strategic plan, and it is only part of the overall equation. Each of our universities also has its own distinct plan, which aligns with the overall system-wide plan of the universities of Wisconsin. The system-wide plan that we are reporting on today was developed to bolster the tripartite mission of the universities of Wisconsin in support of the state of Wisconsin and in fulfillment of the Wisconsin idea. Our 3-point mission is to provide exceptional educational opportunities for students to address Wisconsin's workforce needs and to support our society more generally. 2, to conduct world-class research, and 3, to serve the public. In addition to moving us forward toward these goals, the plan positions us to address a number of the challenges our universities are facing. Enrollment issues and declines in the population rate and demographics. And I think you can see from our enrollment numbers, absent the impact from international students, we are making progress in that regard. Decline in state funding of higher education. And I think with the last biennial budget, we saw real progress there as well. But we are also still feeling the impact of 10 years plus of declining support on an inflation-adjusted basis, as well as a tuition freeze for over a decade. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about, just as an aside, as we think about the biennial budget, is the continued funding for mental health services. A third challenge we are facing is the public perception of value of higher education. And we have a branding and marketing campaign that is focused on trying to address that perception throughout the state. And finally, the challenge we identified when the plan was adopted in December of 2022 was financial viability. At that time, 10 of our 13 universities were running a structural deficit when the plan was adopted. And I'm pleased to report that currently we are projecting that no university will run such a deficit in the current fiscal year. So a lot of progress has been made, a lot of great work at each of the universities to achieve that result. You know, I am proud of what the team has accomplished, and that team is not only the folks sitting in front of you today, it's the folks that support them, but more importantly, across all of our 13 universities that have worked hard to achieve some significant milestones, some of which we will update the board on today. Our universities provide an exceptional educational experience which changes the trajectory of students' lives every day. Through the implementation of Direct Admit Wisconsin is just one example. We are working to ensure the opportunity that higher education affords is available to any student in the state who has the passion and the ability to be successful at one of our universities. Groundbreaking research is being conducted across the universities of Wisconsin. On the research side, we can be proud of the work being done at all of our universities, and in particular, our 2 R1 institutions, UW-Madison and UW-Milwaukee, with UW-Madison ranking 6th in the nation in terms of research expenditures. That is an extraordinary accomplishment, and certainly outsized for the state of Wisconsin, what our flagship has been able to accomplish. And across all of the universities of Wisconsin, our colleagues are working hard every day in public service to Wisconsin. Well, much has been done. Much more work awaits us, including taking a hard look at how the plan needs to evolve given the changes over the last 2.5 years since its adoption. As just one example, I would ask you to consider the impact of AI on our future, keeping in mind that generative AI was not on the immediate horizon, at least in most people's minds in December of 2022. Our strategic plan needs to evolve as our environment evolves, or perhaps more bluntly, as our environment is radically disrupted. It is my belief that we need to be addressing these changes in the near term, but that is a discussion for another time. For today, Johannes Britz, Julie Gordon, Chris Patton, and Jack Jablonski are here to provide updates on some of the work being done to advance the strategic plan in each of their functional areas. The team will focus on several key topics in their respective areas, and we do not have time to walk through each specific strategy in the plan and the various underlying tactics being employed. While each of my colleagues will provide additional updates, I hope you will see the interconnections in their work, all of which is focused on achieving the objectives set forth in the plan more generally. Once we have completed the formal presentation, we'll be happy to address any questions, concerns, or comments that the board may have. Now, to get things started, I'm pleased to ask Dr. Ben Passmore, Associate Vice President for Policy Analysis and Research, to provide some level-setting data to get us started. So with that, Ben, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. As always, we have many more numbers than can be presented in something like this. And so I was hoping to frame up the beginning of this discussion with just three. And those are, to begin with, our total enrollment. This drives almost everything we do. It's much watched. It speaks to our ability to do many things. And although it is not a specific measure, it certainly gives us an idea of the fuel in the system to meet some of the goals that we have ahead of us. As you can see, we were in a long period of decline until around 2022, at which point things began to improve. This currently looks like it's going to be stability, but there is a possibility of an upside increase as we get these numbers finalized. So at the very least, we expect to have stability in our overall enrollment numbers. They are largely held back, again, by the impacts of the international enrollments. Important to understand, though, is much of what we are focused on within the strategic plan is focused around undergraduate education. And the undergraduate education has increased over the last 2 years. And although our estimate is still soft enough that we didn't want to put a number on the page, we do believe that we will see an additional 1,000 or so students in the undergraduate ranks, probably somewhere north of 139,500 when these numbers are all said and done. So again, very much a testament to success at many of the programs in the strategic plan focused on undergraduates. This is particularly important because the top line goal, as it were, for students, for our education within the strategic plan was this goal of 41,000 degrees by 27-28. We always knew this was going to be a very steep climb to get there. Particularly if you recall the two previous slides, when we had a long period where enrollment was not increasing. So you simply had less people within the system. We see in the most recent figures we have a very solid increase, and it's important to contextualize that this is off smaller classes that have been coming in. Many of the increases we see in enrollment have not yet paid out in terms of increases in the number of degrees conferred. So it is our belief that although the goal remains a very challenging one, that we're in a position with hard work that we can certainly get very close to it, and with a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck, we might actually be able to still. I am going to leave it there. There is additional data worked into a number of the presentations, and I am here if there are questions.
Thank you, Regent, for the opportunity also to brief you a little bit just on two of the main initiatives that we are currently having with the strategic plan on enrollment management. And one who's a director of it, I will just give you an update on that. Specifically, the strategy one to implement the strategic plan, which is enrollment management. And then competency-based education also, we want to take it also in mind, which addresses workforce development. I just want to say a few words about the strategic context, and I like visuals, so I always thought, to look at the strategic plan, and you take strategy 1, 2, 8, and 9, it fits in my plan. And
You can see there, I put up, I don't know, pointer doesn't work, but I said strategic context 2040. Because what happened in 2022 when we did the strategic plan, it was done in a record time. And a number of the stuff was tactical, right? Where, and as our thoughts evolved, we have my thoughts evolved, I started thinking, where are we going now? Where are we going in 2040? That's not far off. As you know, days are long, but years are short. It's around the corner. And if you look at demographics on the bottom right there, it's true that the state, in terms of high school, traditional high school students, we will be less for projections. Secondly, on enrollments on the left side, if that holds and nothing changes, almost all our campuses will be down on enrollment. That's a reality. We don't even have to predict the future. That's statistically data. We see that's going to happen. I did put AI in there because that intrigues me a lot. Where are we going? And I was thinking, I heard somebody, I don't know if it was in college, so someday reflect on this generation to say by 2040, maybe the next generation to say, can you imagine a day when there were even students who studied without AI? I think it's going to be like we do math without the calculator, right? It's just going to change us drastically. We need to be even more prepared for, I think, one of the most disruptive technologies that is going to be. Now, if you look at 2040, we know the demographics and we know enrollment challenges. We say, well, what can we do? I thought of two blocks up there that ties in 100% of the strategic plan. One is our traditional students. That is the 164,000 something that they just presented to. That's the students that we have. What do we need to do? Of course, we need to increase participation rate. We saw it now, we want to bring it up. Right? Students from Wisconsin high schools that actually decide to attend our universities. Secondly, of course, we have to increase the retention rate. We retain our students and we graduate them. And I just listed there all the stuff that we do. So for the last 10 years, enrollment management and student support has changed drastically, right, in higher education. But I also have two blocks, one on the right and one on the left. International students, if I think about our future, we need to continue to increase our strategy to recruit more international students. And I think of that, right now, I mentioned that a couple of times. So at this point, we didn't see a drop in international students now, but it's about 11,000 students we have. And then on the out-of-state student side, we need to increase efforts to bring out-of-state students to us. That's part of our growth. It's not just the traditional students or Wisconsin, it is to expand that too as well. That number of out-of-state students and international students at this point is about 51,000. 5 years ago, it was like 45,000 students. Out-of-state students about 38, and then we have the reciprocity students, it's about 12,000. If you think about our future, that should be part of our future thinking. And that's stipulated in our strategic plan. On the left side, K-12, all trade documents will tell you, if you want to be successful as a university, you need to continue to have a strong pipeline with K-12. There's no human around it. That's why we continue to invest in low enrollments, direct admits, guaranteed admits, branding, marketing. I cannot think of a better marketing material when the student gets the direct admit. It's marketing, branding, and they're also invited to join us, right? So if you look at dual enrollment, I don't know if you look at our dashboard. In 2010, there was about just over 3,000 students in dual enrollment. Now, we're over 17,000. And as we speak, we are working actually on realigning in the strategic plan of dual enrollment. And then on the far right side, I just call it other students. And that also aligns with the strategic plan when it comes to workforce development. That is degree completers, but there's also students who say, you know what, I just need upscaling. And I listed there competency-based education, credit for prior learning, micro-credentialing, badging, continuing education, you name it, online. We need to continue to invest in that space because that is the working people that we want to bring in. It is not just the traditional students. And if you look at the number of students we actually reach, I remember Chancellor Michael Alexander, like 2 years ago. Is he telling the truth? Because he said that we serve 92,000 students. And I was listening, and that stuck with me 3 years ago. And then he explained the continuing education that they do. And then I thought, isn't that what we are doing? We are reaching more than 164,000 students. we're actually close to a million. I mean, we can add it up and then can help us to get to that number. But for me, that is a very powerful message. That component is where we look at the strategy. We are aligning ourselves to grow that, strengthen the K-12 pipeline and the traditional students to expand. I go to the next slide. What do we do on that academic? First of all, I just want to say that thanks to the training we have to do. We're going to look at I thought was totally possible, right? I thought when we started talking about that 2 years ago, if you look at the numbers where we are now, I said, congratulations. Amazing job. With limited resources, the campuses, just like this. But also, I want to give recognition to Green Bay right the first time in the right? And we played on it and we moved it. And I think that is just a remarkable thing that we can do to reach out. You can see the numbers that in our high schools. We are now at 467, 70% of all the public schools. And Julie just told me they are now near to 5,000, right? More than 4,000 acres now. And as President Rothman said, there's no doubt in my mind that direct classification comes across all the hard work. You see the education. Proud so we have increased our no doubt that we can just have promise and permanent and capacity. And that's the high school. This is given that we already have kind of joined our direct program. If you like pickleball, I like pickleball when I get to an analogy. But maybe it's like pickleball players taking over tennis courts because we just moved into the state. As you can see, 70% of the public schools we reached. Now, I think this next slide will show you, unfortunately, those are some gray dots that says the next schools for next year waiting to join direct. But the goal is every single high school in this state will join the direct program. What are we doing? Continue, of course, to look at all the schools. We want to increase the participation rate. Students who get the invite, we work hard to actually bring them to us. We want to increase our resources for high school, like training manuals, improve our communication, and also work with the vendors. And actually, we have statewide. There's a lot of work that we do. I said, are the indicators? Absolutely. We're waiting for the final data. Competency-based learning. That's one that I thought as I was sitting there and I just checked with my colleagues. Am I saying is that competence-based education, for those of you who do not know what it really is, it means like I worked 10 years in IT. I have no degree program. And suddenly I said, wow, I want to get a degree. But I cannot go back to a class. I know everything. And so what we offer, we have 12 times a year, once a month, you can actually enroll. You can actually have a flat rate, 2,000 across for a 3-month subscription period, and you can study as much as you can. It's competency-based. You don't sit in the classroom, you study and you are evaluated on the skills that you have. So I just say that's a winner because if you look at workforce development, that is the first model for students to come and take competency-based education. We have the flex option. It's a degree completers and it's a student with work. It's different. It's that right side of my shoulder myself. For those students who are in the workforce, that means 2013, you can study as much as you can for 3 months. That is fantastic. Background, we started that in 2014. We were initially leading competency based. Now, Western governors, Southern New Hampshire, and they have thousands of students. I just thought to myself, is it possible? Can we not increase our own numbers? We have seen enrollment increases. At this point, I just want to say, actually, over the period of time. Our enrollments actually did increase since 2021 by about 5%. I looked at the numbers. I just asked my team to look at it. We're about 1,200 something full-time enrolled students, and about over the period of time, I think we have 2,800 subscriptions. The most popular one is the 3-month period where you study as much as you can for the flat rate of 2,000. Most popular one. And it's financially viable. Doesn't make yet a lot of money, but last year it was 5 million revenue. Expenses was about 3 million. So it can be a financial gainer for us if we really invest. Future, we have our Office of Online and Professional Development Services. They run it. They have the infrastructure. Right? So I would say, let us expand our offerings. We actually work with the campuses. I'm sensitive not to overburden people, but the areas that we see growth in is health, IT, and business. Right, so hopefully you can expand that and then work with our universities as a future. So that's part of the strategic thinking beyond 2028 from an enrollment management perspective. Thank you.
Thanks, Johannes. I'm going to touch upon some of the financial and administrative strategic goals. Specifically, how we are going to attract and retain our top faculty and staff with competitive compensation. This was addressed in strategy number 3. How we will monitor expenses to ensure revenues cover expenses, but even more so than that, that they provide some available resources to invest in areas of growth or new areas for us. This was part of strategy 5. And lastly, how we achieve greater efficiency through initiatives, various initiatives, the most significant one being shared services. This was also part of strategy 3, all related to our financial viability. If we start with part of strategy 3 again, which was competitive compensation, there have been a few things that have happened recently that will allow us to keep pace and maybe close the gap a little bit. First, we did get a general wage adjustment as part of the 25-27 biennial budget. We already received 3% general wage adjustments in July of 25, and there will be an additional 2% in July of 26. Second, the universities of Wisconsin received $27 million annually as part of that biennial budget to be put towards market-based compensation for faculty in high-demand fields. The allocation methodology for this and the parameters for which we would administer such a program are being developed and will be brought to the board most likely next month. Lastly, I wanted to touch upon in fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26, the Board of Regents approved compensation of 15% of base salary for chancellors if they achieved established student retention rates. So I think all of those various initiatives will help us, as I said, hopefully close the gap a little bit, or in some areas at least try to keep pace. However, UW universities recognize that the first 3 bullets that I mentioned there are really not sufficient to address all of the campus needs, and they're working to carve out funds where they can from their budgets, being good financial stewards and addressing their needs, taking control of their own situation where they can. And so just a couple examples, I can't go through them all in the time that we have, but just a few. UW-Milwaukee implemented a chancellor's discretionary adjustment in fiscal year 24 to address employees earning less than $55,000 a year. UW-La Crosse increased its minimum wage on campus to $18 an hour. And UW-Whitewater created a pool of funds to address compression issues that they're feeling, and effective calendar year 26 will begin utilizing those funds. But you can see on the right-hand side where we list a number of opportunities or challenges. First and foremost, as I said, the campuses do have a significant hill to climb already. The American Association of University Professors, or AAUP, does conduct an annual survey of faculty salaries. And even when we adjusted for the cost of living, most of our universities have a large gap that they are attempting to close. So that is working against us. We are hoping to make inroads with the $27 million in market-based funds, but that does not address all the needs we have on our campuses. These funds are identified for faculty in high-demand areas. We've got a number of other areas that will not be touched with these funds. Just an example, our instructional academic staff often are the ones who are in our clinical settings for our healthcare professions, would be a key area that many of our campuses would like to address. We move on to our next area of financial viability and strategy number 5. As presented to the board in July, and as President Rothman mentioned earlier, we have moved from 10 universities with deficits in fiscal year 24 to no university reporting an operating deficit in fiscal year 26. Our goal was to eliminate those operating deficits by fiscal year 28. So we are ahead of schedule, but we are definitely not doing a victory lap here. This is something that we will never really be done monitoring and will continue to monitor. We will be providing to the Business and Finance Committee, and then obviously rolling up to the full board, revised budget projections at your December meeting. This will be based on 10th day enrollment information from the campuses. If enrollments are lower than anticipated at any one of our universities, our campuses will be taking the necessary steps to ensure that they're living within their means, and that is definitely something that UW administration will partner with the campuses to find ways to do so. Some of the examples that we've seen already, and again, this is just a short list of a few of them. UW Oshkosh implemented its institutional realignment plan that included academic restructuring, a review of faculty workload, and overall workforce reductions. UW Platteville aligned administrative and academic leaders and non-instructional academic staff levels to enrollments, resulting in reductions of 46% and about 28% respectively of that workforce. And UW River Falls realigned 2 colleges to form 1, and also reviewed course offerings through sections being merged and courses being maybe on a cyclical basis. A number of other institutions have looked at restructuring, academic restructuring as well. UW Parkside comes to mind there. So I've also noted here cash management changes. We are better utilizing active cash management and investing our operating funds in higher yielding investment vehicles. We talked about that today again at the Business and Finance Committee. And also with Workday, our universities that use our state contracted bank are getting funds to the state treasury faster and maximizing investment earnings by doing so. But again, on the right-hand side of the slide, we'll touch upon just a few opportunities or challenges that we have coming up. The federal landscape, both policies and budget, continue to pose uncertainties. That's been discussed already today. Wanted to touch upon our Minnesota reciprocity agreement. Last year, UW universities were allowed to keep net reciprocity revenue of slightly more than $20 million that would have previously lapsed to the state general fund. This is part of a legislative action that was taken that allowed the universities of Wisconsin to administer that reciprocity agreement. So that has proven to be helpful to a number of our campuses. And also as an opportunity in the future, we've touched upon, I think when we talked about the Workday Go Live, some of the opportunities we have for reporting. We have started a reporting work group looking to ensure that we're providing really better financial information into university operations within all levels of the organization, including the Board of Regents. Lastly, just wanted to touch upon shared services. This is something that we went into greater detail in the Business and Finance Committee earlier today. We have made a number of improvements in this area that were initially shared with the board in December, and then we gave that update of where we are at. Just a short recap, I think we've made huge strides with the leadership of Stacy Ralston, Stephen Hopper, Josh Smith in finance, and a number of other members of the leadership team in UW administration, working really well with our campuses. That short recap, though, would be that we have developed a governance structure for shared services, including members from each university, and we're working on that draft charter. We've developed a number of metrics, have identified them, and developed dashboard for the metrics of those services. And with the implementation of Workday, we've also moved to one employee ticketing system, really a one-stop shop, one front door for all of our employees and students to go to, regardless of what their question is. When it comes to payroll and finances. On the right-hand side, again, though, our opportunities and challenges are we know we're not done on the customer service side. Workday has brought, even though the implementation was a huge success, We do have a few things to continuously improve on and iterate on, so that will be coming up in the future. And then we do need to look at additional services going forward. Really focusing, I think, hearing from the campuses on fractional FTE, if we're pulling jobs or a portion of a position from a campus, are we really saving the campus's money? And what is that return on investment? And then lastly, looking to see how we can leverage artificial intelligence. One example of something we're looking at already is in auditing expense reports, something that we think can help with lower risk items in that category. So definitely, I think the last couple months have been an opportunity for us to try to gain some additional credibility within shared services and really build the foundation for the future in this area. That I will turn it over to Vice President Patton.
Thank you, Vice President Gordon. I'm really excited to share our work within university relations. We've been really focused on 3 pillars that have really focused our work over the last year. Our first pillar has been focused on advocating for opportunities for all of Wisconsin, and it really dovetails nicely around 3 strategic priority areas, which I sort of refer to as a 3-legged stool focused on students, facilities, and funds. Essentially, if we don't have resources, we don't have a mission. To highlight a couple of our successes, I just obviously call out our significant success around both the operating budget and the capital budget, and goes obviously without saying the thanks that we have both for the governor's support and the bipartisan support that we received on the largest operating budget increase that we received in over 2 decades, as well as a very robust capital budget. That obviously would not have been possible without not only the success and hard work of the team at UW System Administration, but our campus and university colleagues and partners, including the chancellors and their government relations teams. We've also, had great success in partnering with our tribal colleagues, both obviously the colleagues that you heard from today, as well as the tribal nation leaders, and really increasing pathways to college for our Native students across the state. And that has been a very significant effort. I'd encourage you to take a look at the tribal consultation work plan that the team has been very hard at engaging in. We've also on the federal level been hard at work, particularly with our colleagues in Madison and Milwaukee, being strong advocates on the federal level. We obviously face significant headwinds in both the student financial aid space, as well as ensuring that we continue to be in the top tier when it comes to federal support for the research powerhouse that exists, not only here, quite frankly, at Madison, but at the University of Milwaukee as well. Looking forward, I just highlight where we've obviously have our attention turned to the state capitol, the legislative session. As President Rothman mentioned, we're focused on expanding dual enrollment, supporting opportunities for veterans, their spouses, and children. We're focused on opportunities to expand authority around program revenue, bonding, and our capital program. And quite frankly, we've already turned our attention to the next operating budget and capital program. It's never too late to begin, or never too early to begin planning there as well. Our second pillar that we're focused on is really helping innovators and ideas succeed. I like to say this is really putting the Wisconsin idea in action. And we align around 4 key strategies here. The 2 that I just really sort of excite me in terms of alignment that I'd call your attention to is really expanding access for entrepreneurs and businesses. And to me, that's all about how do we expand our market and expand to additional adult learners across the state. The second strategy that we really focus on within university relations in our Office of Business and Entrepreneurship is, working hard to connect the work we do with our university colleagues so that we are expanding opportunities for students in high impact practices. And in those areas, again, just some of the successes and action areas we've had over this last year. And I would be remiss here again if I didn't highlight, the small business development centers that we have across the state. That really we champion the strong partnership that we have again with our university colleagues. We're only successful, in our division if we partner with the faculty and quite frankly the students on our campuses. And there's three examples I'll give. That's for example, the continuing education department at UW Superior, or the manufacturing extension partnership at Stout, or the school business at Whitewater. Those are just three examples of great partnerships where our small business development centers have partnered, and they're connecting our system-wide, UW admin-wide small business development centers with and harnessing the power of our faculty and staff at the universities, bring students to bear and connecting them with business and entrepreneurs. That's led to, engagements with over 18,000 entrepreneurs. It's led to the creation of 325 new businesses. And one of the really exciting parts, it's bringing over $180 million in capital into the state. So to me, that's really exciting. Again, the Wisconsin idea in action. Now, we're not just stopping there. We are, collaborating with industry associations and regional workforce development boards. You see that every day. For example, we're working right now with the Kenosha Area Business Alliance and UW Parkside and a major pharmaceutical company that in southeastern Wisconsin to work and figure out how we meet their workforce needs and connect them with the resources and talents and graduates that exist across the universities of Wisconsin. Now, looking forward, we know that there's a lot more that we can do. We can extend, for example, the digital marketing clinic that has been so successful at UW Oshkosh, where we are taking students and high impact practices that are helping small businesses figure out how they improve their digital presence. We could take that sort of concept that has been incredibly successful and expand that into the world of AI. And we're looking to do that, for example, later this year at UW River Falls and the Small Business Development Center and the faculty there that are interested. And hopefully get it off the ground at River Falls and then expand that system-wide. We also know that there still is a lot of duplication that exists in this space, and with dwindling federal resources, we're also focused, for example, on just becoming more efficient in the delivery of services in this space. So just a couple areas just to highlight in terms of looking forward in this space. The third pillar that we're focused on is promoting civic engagement and public service. And as President Rothman said, this area as well just is more critical today than it was yesterday, quite frankly. And here again, we're partnering with our university colleagues across the constellation. This is year 2 of our freedom of expression module. We hope to have data later this fall. Students are in the process of just completing that module as they've returned to campus. So we're excited to have that out in the field. We've been busy hosting workshops and seminars over the course of this last year. We had a very successful Washington seminar where we've led it from our division, but partnered, for example, with our colleagues up at UW Eau Claire, and we had a great uptick in Eau Claire students, but quite frankly, it's expanded across the constellation. And, we're providing an immersion opportunity, getting students out to not only here in Madison, but to Washington DC for a couple weeks to really immerse into civics and learn about civil dialogue and in civic engagement. Looking ahead, we know we have a lot more to do in this space to embed civil dialogue and freedom of expression in the work that we do. And we're excited to be launching a faculty survey to better understand the experiences our faculty are having in the work that they do in the classroom each and every day, and figure out what we can do better in that space. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Associate Vice President Jablonski.
I'm here to share a quick update on our Universities of Wisconsin branding campaign, a strategic effort to increase Wisconsin's higher education participation. This campaign supports our strategic plan through 3 phases: establish, embrace, and enhance. Each phase builds awareness, strengthens identity, and improves access for students. In October of 2023, as some of you might recall, we rebranded to Universities of Wisconsin to reflect our collective strength. Research showed that UW system was often associated only with UW-Madison. This shift clarifies who we are, 13 distinct universities under one trusted name. Our first campaign launched in April 2024 with Shine United. Through TV, billboards, and digital media, we achieved 64% ad recall and a 50% increase in brand awareness. This year alone, we have had over 360,000 conversions into wisconsin.edu and over 3,000 into the Apply Wisconsin Now page. Brand assets such as TV spots, banners, and graphics are aspirational and student-centered. They reflect the opportunities within a brand Wisconsinites know and trust. This ad anchors our current digital media push.
We can see it, his relentless determination. A fiery tenacity that can't be taught. We see that what he's passionate about today will steer him toward what he studies tomorrow and ultimately fuel his future career. And all he needs now is to find the right college. Welcome to the Universities of Wisconsin. 13 universities, unlimited opportunity.
All 13 universities now reflect the brand online, up from just 5 years ago, or up from just 5 when we started. Our co-branding efforts with our universities now include digital billboards, student mailings, and banners across the state. There are even lampposts coming to Kenosha and Racine. This alignment strengthens our shared identity and expands our reach. Strong brands increase trust among prospective students. It is what we need and critical if we are to increase Wisconsin's participation. As important, we are now using the brand across all direct admit materials, reaching tens of thousands of students, as well as hundreds of counselors annually. And our universities are beginning to co-brand our admission matters, seen here from La Crosse and Eau Claire, or from La Crosse and Parkside. These efforts don't just build awareness, they're helping students see themselves in our universities and reinforcing the brand in meaningful ways. Phase 3 begins with an improved wisconsin.edu landing page for our digital campaign directed at students and parents. We're reducing content by over 50% to prioritize what matters most. We're capturing attention, then guiding students to the right path faster. Here's a preview of what should be in place this January. As you know, wisconsin.edu is a powerful domain, and we're leveraging it to improve access and engagement for students. This brand adds prestige and pride. Our goal is to position it intentionally to elevate public perception, support enrollment growth, and provide new marketing tools for our universities, including emerging AI capabilities. With continued support, we'll keep building momentum. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our prepared comments, and would certainly open the floor to any questions or comments that the regents may have.
Regents, any questions or comments? Regent Rye.
I don't know,
okay?
I'll yell them. How's that? Just
as a regent, that when I first got on the board and presented a budget without a plan, said we need a plan before we have a budget, and presented one, and you guys seem to have followed it very well. And I think some of your accomplishments you're understating. They're pretty significant, especially on the financial side. The turnaround. I'm glad Julie pointed out that it's a work in progress and it needs to stay there, but I just want to offer my congratulations to the work that's been done in all the areas. And it's been great to see a plan and then to be able to see the follow-up that didn't exist when I first got on the board. So for newer regents, this is quite a step forward for the entire system. So Jay, congratulations to your new team. Keep up the good work.
Bill, and I appreciate that, Regent Rye, very much. But I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the people sitting over here. When you think about the financial, making sure that the universities are financially viable, these are the folks that have lifted with their teams. They had to have the lifting to do. And I think what I'm most encouraged about is that I think we're working as a team. That it's the folks at UWSA, but it's really working hand in glove with the universities, because that's what's going to help us be successful long term. That level of collaboration is absolutely critical. But on behalf of my team and our universities, thank you for your very kind comments. It's much appreciated.
Regent Menominee.
Thank you. I'd like to echo those compliments. And Regent Rye is correct that there was no strategic plan that was forever presented by anyone in your position. You did. You promised us you would do that, and you presented it. And there was initially there was some criticism because it wasn't bold enough, right? Remember that? I think it was bold.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I think we know who said it too, Ed, so we're good.
So anyway, you're working on it. You're having success. Chancellors are buying in, which is what we want. We want us to be successful and hope and pray for that. And this is evidence that when we work together, we can succeed. We have so many brilliant people that are on your team that are at the campuses that are making this possible. If we keep at it, we can overcome anything. I mean, there were all the dire warnings that there's the student population in high school declining. There's going to be ruination. Remember the statement by someone that was in your position that the enemy is at the door. They're knocking in. They're going to come in and take over unless we go online. There were all kinds of warnings about failure. And in spite of all of that, you stuck with your guns, did your plan. And in spite of all the things that have happened in the last couple of years, we're making great progress. So I do appreciate that. Applaud you and the campuses for your success, and you're working together, and system people that are sitting beside you and everyone that helps them.
I appreciate that very much, Regent Menominee, and again, on behalf of the team sitting here and teams behind them, and certainly the folks over there and their teams. Thank you.
Yes, Regent Nixon. And if you can, yes, you will speak in the mic.
Oh, the dreaded Regent Nixon comment. One of the problems that you guys are causing is your success is raising expectations. I will say that. Let me just make a suggestion. And some of you who were at the meetings this morning, this university has an amazing story to tell. And people don't know it. For some of you who were and I've been asking specifically programs, what if I'm not looking to be a college student, but I am a Wisconsin working person who's never been to college, what does this university do for me? We had amazing answers to that this morning. Amazing answers to that this morning. And I think, and maybe this goes to you, Jack, we're talking about branding. It's not just incoming students. It's, I've never been to college. I'm not going to college, but I have a family. What do the graduates of the University of Wisconsin provide for my family? We had to go back and look at some of the answers this morning. They were just absolutely amazing. So I'd like to see it. Here's what happens when you do well. People don't cut your they don't cut your work, they add to it. They go, you did so good. So that is just one suggestion I have, is to reach out to the people who are not college connected and explain that when they want physical therapy, or they want their child to get a particular type of radiation treatment or audiology, go down the list. This university provides those people for them and their families. And I think we need to remind them of that. Just one Regent's thoughts.
And I appreciate that, Regent Nixon, and I concur with it. And the question of how do we best get that message out, that's Jack's challenge. I think that's a good thing. And we actually had a very interesting conversation in the chancellor's meeting yesterday. And the comment was made, when you think about it, when you capture the research and the exponential impact that teachers that are coming out of our schools of education have, that multiplier, it's almost innumerable, the people that these universities touch, whether it's through that next, medical treatment, that research that's been done on our campuses, teachers in the schools, the engineer that develops something that we all use within the state or even globally. And it is extraordinary. And I guess the best way that we can do, and that's why the roles that we're privileged to have are exciting, because you see that. How do we best communicate that to a larger group of Wisconsinites in particular, and those who do not have as strong a view of the value of higher education, and at least get the facts out in front of them to allow them to make their own judgments.
Okay, I think we should need something else to do.
I wrote it down. But we did have a great discussion yesterday with the chancellors. Almost all of them are here, so they can attest to it as well.
I've gotten most of my ideas from them and their faculty, asking them questions when I visited about what they're doing for people. And I get amazing answers. It would be great. They sent Jack, they're going to give you an hour, come back, give us a report on how you're doing it.
Regent Rogers?
Just to echo on Regent Nixon about telling more stories. There are great stories to tell out there, particularly from the workforce development perspective. And so what I really liked hearing was the part about upskilling. So this helps employers in our communities because they're able to potentially avert layoffs because they're upskilling their current workforce. They can bring aboard backfill those entry-level positions potentially too, as they upskill those. And for the student who is working full-time, it helps lift them up on their career ladder. So this great benefit for both the student and for our employer partners in the community. So both all that micro credentialing, upskilling, those great stories that you can tell too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Terwilliger.
The last time I knew anything about this, which was a while ago, it was just about impossible to get into Madison in the state. It would take maybe the top 15 to 16% of class. I'm not sure that's still true, but I'm wondering if your branding is sort of an attempt to draw students away from Madison into other campuses.
I think it's really in Madison, certainly there's high demand for admission to Madison, which I think is a great testament to the university here. But I think the branding concept, and Jack can add to this or correct it as he sees fit, but was really to say we're a constellation of 13 universities. And each of these universities will provide students with extraordinary opportunities. And I think as we move forward, as those universities continue to distinguish themselves in certain areas in particular, it will be helpful as students are making up their mind. But it's really that concept that those 13 universities are not out on islands. They are part of something much greater. And when they collaborate and when they work together, the opportunities that they can provide for students in the state are absolutely incredible. And I think we can be proud of graduates from every one of those 13 universities, because it is amazing when you sit down and you talk to alum about what those students have done and what they have done in their lives and the impact that they have had, not only on the state, not only on the nation, but globally. And it's across all 13. That's to me is really incredible. And there is But the message we want to be sending is there is a place for every student in the state who has the desire and the passion to be successful
Does that
at
work?
one of
Yeah,
our
it does.
universities.
Hi.
There's a place where they can achieve that and go on to do great things.
So when I came on the board 5 years ago, the ability to bring stakeholders and having business partnerships was barely mentioned. And I think it's been an incredible, the system has done such a great job of honing that. But I know Vice President Patton, there's more to come. So I'm just curious, because I think it's so important this day, you know, we really rely heavily, as the mascots have shown us, the video of all the partnerships. So ideas going into the future. I know we've talked a lot, but just how we hone all those partnerships and all the stakeholders going into the future. So I don't know if you have any ideas but I think it's, you know, there's so much to build upon, so.
Yeah, and I think Regent President Bogost, I think I just follow up on Regent Rogers' comment that I think we are just scratching the surface, quite frankly, on the business community and what we can do and how we can assist them. And we have to redouble and triple and quadruple our efforts to make those connections, have the conversation. But it's got to go beyond just that conversation. I think, you know, I'm becoming increasingly convinced that we have to have something very tangible to offer and to walk in the door and say, listen, we can do this for your employee base, or what is your biggest need and what can we do to develop programs around that, if they're simply credentialing programs or simply, you know, going in and having a business school do a leadership presentation because then I think you see, and all of this is intertwined at some level because that builds the public perception. Wisconsin invests a lot in the universities of Wisconsin. And for the public to see the value that comes from that. And Regent Nixon is right. I mean, part of that is I wouldn't call it tangential, but it's not directly related to an instructional opportunity. But we have the ability to do the instructional opportunities as well to help our businesses. And I can't think of a better time, quite frankly, than to do that. Because when I'm in my comments, that, you know, the world is going to change pretty rapidly. And what you're doing today, you probably are not going to be doing 2 years from now, maybe not 6 months from now. And how do we then allow and upskill or reskill people in that environment? That's one piece, but it's also how we think about how we're educating, you know, students within our universities. And that's really the role that the chancellors and particularly the provosts have. But how does pedagogy change? And what are those durable skills that students are going to need to have to be successful in a world that has the potential of really being revolutionized? And I think that to me is the exciting part of this, because that's where, if we can get out in front of this and really start thinking about that and working with business partners and working with other external stakeholders, I think we can do a lot. The challenge is that we don't try to boil the ocean. We're going to have to be very specific and strategic about what we do, or we're going to spread our resources too thin and will not be successful.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Thank you all so much, and we're excited to continue. Before we end our session today, I just want to know if any regents have any, or chancellors or provosts have any communications, petitions, memorials, announcements that they want to share. Okay. Anybody? Okay. Well, we are done with open session, and we will excuse everyone except people that are going to be here for closed session. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Except for us.